Well, there goes 100 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. First off, with the announcement of Pokemon Legends ZA, I was inspired to do a 100-hour shiny hunting challenge in Pokemon Legends Arceus. So a few quick rules. I will not allow myself to save scum. If I lose the shiny, that is it. I'm only hunting outbreaks, no outbreak manipulations, so no permutations. But first things first, I actually did lose the footage of the first two shinies I caught. So here they are. I did get an Abra that I evolved, and a Mime Jr., which is one of my most hated shinies ever, and overall one of my most hated Pokemon ever. So first off, I thought evolving Mime Jr. would make things a little bit better, but I couldn't actually remember what Mr. Mime's shiny looked like itself. Once I saw this terrifying face in the shadows, I realised maybe I'd made a mistake. The green really doesn't help his creepy factor. Mr. Mime is definitely one of the creepiest Pokemon in the game, so that's why we named him Mr. McCreepy. And it was time to see what he actually looked like in the flesh. He was really off-putting with those dance moves. The clap freaks me out, the shoes, absolutely everything. He's definitely one of my most hated shinies. To keep the village children safe, we thought it was time to take Mr. McCreepy out to go beat up on some Geodude so he could get ready to fight some real fights out in the first zone. After a few cheeky KOs, it was time to go chat to Leon. So this was the first time that we'd had a conversation outside of Jubilee Village, and it was the first time we were getting ready to fight. As I said earlier, this is not a Nuzlocke or anything, so I didn't have a level cap for my Pokemon. So obviously Eddie was about to beat the absolute living shit out of his Goomy. Level difference here was 31 to 15, and with a single Psycho cut, he won this fight so we could move on and get our weird ear. Once we had our conversation with the real adults and they gave us this weird flute, it was time for us to unlock the ability to run around on Weird Ear. So as I mentioned earlier, the first two shinies we caught were without any of the mounts, so it was just running around, and it took me nearly 10 hours just to get those two shinies. So it was definitely overdue, and we're really keen to get this Weird Ear so we could run around the map and hopefully get a few shinies a bit quicker. Almost as if it was meant to be, after running around the map for a little while, we finally heard that noise. I've never been so scared. I don't know why I hid behind this wall or why I froze or which direction I looked in, but I really wasn't sure where the shiny came from, and after over 15 hours of hunting with nothing, I was terrified of losing it. So as I could see to the left, it wasn't him, and I wasn't too sure until I saw the yellow Kricketot running out of the bushes. Now it was finally time to be able to get our third team member and hopefully start to make some progress on this 100-hour hunt. So as I slowly snuck up behind him, I knew I had to go for a back tap as I was not save scumming or anything in this, and I was really afraid that Kricketot was going to run away, because they do run away quite quickly. This is the first random shiny I'd caught in the game, and to celebrate, I went and ran some laps. Next up, it was time to evolve Kricketot into Kricketune. Kricketune has one of the most iconic yells in the game, and I was super excited to add this shiny to the team. Without wasting any time, we headed back to Jubilee Village to show off my shiny trio to the locals. So obviously I wasn't very happy with that idiot on the right, but I was definitely happy with my Kricketune on the left. He was a great addition to the team, and it was time to move on to the second fight. So this fight is against a Glaceon, and I didn't think about it. I sent out Kricketune to prove his worth to the team immediately, without realising that he wasn't very high level, and he had no super effective moves. So with a few Night Slashes, and after tolerating a few Absorbs and a few Swifts, we finally moved on to the first big fight of the game. This introduction cutscene for Kleavor was one of the coolest parts of the game, and something that I really hope they carry forward into the next Pokemon Legends. These boss fights might not be the most mechanically impressive, but it was really cool to be able to see the scale of these massive Pokemon going up against you and your tiny Pokemon, although throwing food at them does feel a little bit stupid. After a few minutes of throwing my sack at Kleavor, we finally got him down and defeated the first boss. This was a really cool introduction to the boss fight mechanics of the game, and I'm really excited to see what happens moving forward. Next up, it was time to get back to some shiny hunting. It had been over 15 hours of hunting without anything, so outbreaks were definitely the way to go. Just trying to find random shinies in the overworld is an impossible task at the start, especially with no shiny charm until the end game. Outbreaks is definitely the way to do it, and it was finally time to hunt one of the coolest shinies in the game, the real god of this game, and a massive rival to Arceus himself, the mighty Bidoof. The panic had set back in as soon as I saw the shiny Bidoof. It had been over 15 hours of shiny hunting without anything to show for it, so I was super nervous to be able to get into this battle. Although Bidoof don't seem to typically run away very quickly, it was definitely nice to add him to the team with that first Great Ball. So as you can see, Bidoof definitely looks like it has the colour of peanut butter, so I decided to name him after one of my favourite videos.
What's the word?
With the addition of peanut butter to the team, we now had our first 4 members out of 6. 2 more to go and we'd be able to move to the next area. I was super happy with how the hunts were coming along so far, especially that 3 out of these 4 Pokemon were really good, except for obviously Mr. Mime. No later than 10 minutes after catching my shiny Bidoof, I managed to get an outbreak of something that was in its evolution line, and I couldn't believe that somehow I managed to get back-to-back shinies in the exact same spot from the exact same evolution. It was really nice to add this to the team, but I did really want to see if I could get something else, something a little rarer for the 6th member of our team to push us over the edge and land us in the next zone. Now this fight was a little bit more annoying than expected, and I was a little bit afraid that the Pokemon was going to run away, so it was time to bring out the Bidoof against the Barbarelle and fight its own species to try and make him as a part of my team. So this is pretty cool to be able to have back-to-back shinies of the same evolutions, but able to put them in my team in spot number 4 and spot number 5. Now we're up to number 6, and one of the most stressful hunts that I've ever had in this game. So as you heard the sound just go off, this was one of the most skittish Pokemon in the game, and I was super excited to try and get the shiny. But I've encountered so many of these before that just run away instantly as soon as you get too close. So this was about a 5-minute encounter that was one of the most stressful things I've ever seen. I slowly sneaked around the back, trying to get a better angle to try and get a back tap on it. I thought running down here would be safe, but as you can see, that Geodude that's up on the left, I was so focused on the shiny Stantler that I didn't even see it, and then all of a sudden got attacked and went into full panic mode trying to run away to figure out what's going to happen. So lucky for me, this isn't a Nuzlocke and I could just use Eddie to come out and smash this Geodude, but still I was on edge worrying that the Stantler would disappear, and as I said, I wasn't save scumming, so that meant that if I lost this Stantler, this was about a 10-hour hunt to get the Stantler, then I would have to completely restart. So once we knocked out this Geodude, we started to sneak back up again. As you can see, the Stantler's still there, hasn't spotted me yet, and we seem to be in a good position, but little did I know that up on the left-hand side was another Geodude that I wasn't ready to fight. He comes up now, just on the left. You can't see him until I get into the grass, and then all of a sudden I've been spotted again. Once we bring out Eddie to fight this Geodude, well, originally I miss, obviously, and hit the tree, but we dodge that, and then Eddie comes in to fight the Geodude. We send out Eddie to easily dispatch of the Geodude. No stresses on that at all, but it was definitely starting to be stressful to worry about that the Pokemon was going to leave, and that I was going to have another 10-hour hunt on my hands to try and be able to move on to the next zone. Once we got rid of that, we panic. We panic and we start to creep back up again to the bushes. As we get to the long grass, we slowly creep up behind the Stantler, trying to make sure that he will become the 6th and final member of our first zone. As you can see, he faces me. I panic and back up, waiting for my chance when he turns around. Eventually he turns around and I come up for a back tap and pray that he actually locks on and doesn't run away, because if he runs, there's no chance I'm getting him and it's done. Lucky for me, we get him with a Great Ball in the first try, and that is now the 6th and final member of the first zone, and after about 40 hours I can finally move on to the next area, which is why I'm celebrating by running around and then accidentally leaping off the edge and nearly killing myself. So here we are. Here is the final team for zone number 1. The first 6 shinies that I got in this game, mostly from outbreaks, except for that Kricketune. This was definitely one of the longest hunts and one of the hardest teams I've ever had to get, but I was super happy with this team and ready to move on into the next zone. Lucky for me, getting the first member of the Crimson Mirelands was super easy. This hunt didn't take long at all. As you can see, it only took us running around the corner and finding one of the first outbreaks in the zone. This Pokemon was a great Pokemon and a super good shiny to get very early on. Next up, it was time to turn our Skunky into a Skunk Tank, which is a much better shiny and a much better Pokemon overall, which is definitely going to help us in the next zone. On top of that, we'd finally made some progress on our star rank, leveling up to 6 stars, which means we started to earn some more money, had unlocked rarer Pokeballs, and should make the shiny hunts even easier. So after that, I got a little bit sick of going through the same zones, so I went back to the original area to see if I could get a classic shiny from my childhood that I never got. As you can see from my age, I was a kid that played the original games on Game Boy, and I always wanted a shiny Zubat. So I'd attempted this hunt multiple times. I was probably onto about outbreak number 9 at this point. Wasn't resetting them, was just finding them as they came up, and as you can see, that shiny Zubat just spawned in the background there. So I was really eager to get this Zubat out of the way so I could finally get the shiny that I've wanted since I was a kid. We quickly knock out that Zubat and head on to see if that one is still around. As you can see, the nice puke green in the background is still there. With a few quick balls and feather balls, we definitely get onto him real quick, and then hopefully he doesn't burst out, but as you can see, he does for the first time. We hit him with another feather ball, and that should be it. These shinies that I'm counting don't count towards my overall team, but I do keep them as wild cards, as I do plan on having a longer video where I beat the game with shinies only. Here you can see the shiny Zubat, super nice model in this game. Even the puke green looks really nice. Next up was one of the first horrible things that happened to me in this game. So this is our first shiny fail for this video. So as you can see, I panicked when it started running away, so I chased it to try and get into it in battle. As I mentioned earlier, I do not save scum, so this was one of the worst things that I've had happen to me. The Pichu just ran away, and that is the first fail of the game. I literally just stood there, couldn't believe it actually happened in real life. I'd never failed a shiny before, and here it goes. Here's the fever dreams that I suffered after of Mr. Mime creepily haunting everything I did. I was super upset after this, but keen to get back into it to try and get another one of my original favourites. So as you can see here, we did get the golden Geodude, and of course we had to call him Denver after the Denver Nuggets, just to match that gold nugget. So with a single wing ball, we hit him from behind, and we catch him and add him to our team, which is number 2. And as you can see here, we do now have Denver the Geodude added to the roster. Then it finally happened again. We finally found a random shiny that we weren't hunting in an outbreak, and I instantly went into panic mode as I was really hopeful about what the shiny was. Don't really know why I went into the map and zoomed out. I don't know if I misclicked and panicked, but we're really hopeful, and as you can see there, it is actually a shiny Ghastly. So for me this is huge. The shiny Ghastly doesn't look that good in Scarlet and Violet, so it was huge to get it in this game, as you'll see in a second. The model and the texture looks really good. I'm just really hopeful to try and catch it straight away. Ghastly don't typically run away, which was nice to be able to get that easily before we got attacked by that one. Here you go, here's the model. It looks great in this game, so much better than Scarlet and Violet, and I was super happy to add him to the team. After this, it was time to finally do some evolutions again, and this time Eddie was up, finally hitting his final form as an Alakazam. So this shiny changes pretty dramatically when you evolve him into an Alakazam, and as you'll see, he has a super bright pink outfit, which looks really weird, but it's still really cool as one of the original shiny Pokemon. Next up, it was Denver's turn. We needed to evolve him to be a bit stronger than a Geodude. And there he is, as a Graveler, looking real nice. Loses the yellow a little bit, but still a nice earthy orange colour. And lastly, it was time to evolve the Ghastly into a Haunter. So I do love the model for Ghastly, but he definitely wouldn't be strong enough for me to be able to take him through for my shiny only team runs, so we did need to evolve him into a Haunter and hopefully eventually a Gengar, although the model does change and it does only have that blue tongue. So here's the squad so far. We kind of had built out a pretty nice rounded team here at this point with some 4 really cool shinies that I was super happy to have. I do think that this team is shaping up to be better than the first one, but we'll see what happens in the future. Next up, I just went back to do some random shiny hunts again for some Pokemon that don't count to my challenge. So here I got a shiny Beautifly, which actually looks really nice. There's a really nice gold colour and then some purple on the outlines. This was a really difficult fight. I did cut out the video before, but it was super difficult to get him to this stage as he kept flying away and I was being attacked by a bunch of other Beautiflies. But eventually we finally got him down. We switched in Eddie to be able to try and hypnotise him. Really hopeful that that was going to work, as I've had trouble kind of catching Beautifly before, especially I really wanted this shiny. So we quickly hit him with a hypnosis, get him to start to get drowsy. He hits me annoyingly with a stun spore. I'm a little bit torn on what to do. Do I throw a feather ball or do I try and attack him down? But instead we just decided to throw the ball. As you can see, we got super lucky and we now catch Beautifly to go into my wildcard team. This definitely has one of the best models in the game. We did film this here at night time, so it's not as bright, but it does look really nice. The purple and gold looks great in this game. Next up, we're about to see one of our original Pokemon again. This time there was no sound. It was the first time I'd seen a shiny with no indicator, but obviously this one stood out quite easily. It was our time to finally get our shiny yellow Lickitung. I had hunted this Outbreak a bunch before, so it was really nice to finally get him and add him to the team. Now as we were getting closer, we were really trying to round out the team, so we thought we'd be able to go for some Bonsly. I had been hunting a bunch of Sudowoodo Outbreaks, but Bonsly is actually a really nice shiny, so I was super excited to add this to the team. This did take around 15 hours for me to find though. These Bonsly Outbreaks are not easy, especially that they run away and they're very close to the ground, so the ball bounces a lot of the time and doesn't get them. There we go, finally. I'd probably at this point encountered over 500 Bonsly. It was an insane hunt to try and finally get him, but after we get to this Outbreak, we finally do. That model looks so nice, so I eventually decided to keep him as a Bonsly instead of going for a Sudowoodo. Now all we had to do was replace Eddie from the team to get our full 6. So at the moment, Eddie is the only original zone shiny that I have in this team, and now it's time to try and replace him. As I mentioned earlier, I just continually tried to hunt different Outbreaks, so for me to actually get this as my final shiny was absolutely amazing, as this is one of the best looking shinies in this game. As you see, panic mode sets in as we try and get up to him. That green shiny, most green shinies don't look great, but this green shiny looks incredible. Tangela are a little bit difficult to deal with in this game as they're quite aggressive, so we're trying to stay back or sneak into the grass to be able to get him as easily as possible. We slowly sneak up into the grass and get him isolated on his side, and throw out Eddie to battle him so we can put on Hypnosis and try and make this a little bit easier and guarantee that we don't lose him. There we go, Eddie hits him with the Hypnosis to get him to sleep. Tangela grows drowsy, hits me with the Poison Powder, which doesn't matter as we're quite a high level. And then we get him with the Wing Ball. Well, actually, I didn't realise I did Hypnosis again. A nice embarrassing moment there. And there we go, we throw the Wing Ball at him. And finally add our 6th and final member to the team. And of course, we had to call him Noodles. With the addition of Tangela to the team, that meant that we had our 6 shinies from our second zone, which means that we could go on to fight Lilligant, who is the zone final boss. Definitely not as cool fight as the Cleavor, as you're about to see, but it's definitely another one of the cool parts of the game. I actually really enjoyed this fight as a kind of juxtaposition to the Cleavor, as this is much less intimidating, although get ready for this hilarious dance. There's a few real clunky animations in this that actually made me laugh out in real life, like that bit there. I don't know what that is. I don't know how that got kept in it. But yeah, definitely a little bit less intimidating than the Cleavor, but still nice to be able to defeat the boss and move on to the third zone. So quickly, after a pretty simple fight of dodging, most of these fights are pretty similar. We finally get them with that Marsh Balm, throw a little bit of food at them, finally KO them so we can move on to the next area. Up next, we're finally moving on to the Obsidian Firelands to start our third team. So this third zone for us is a lot of water-based Pokemon. Pretty keen to see if I can get some, although the water in this game is really annoying and it makes shiny hunting really hard. So that is why we started off with an Outbreak that was on the water, trying to get the shiny Drifloon. So this Drifloon looks sick. I was terrified then that it was going to run away, but we did hit it with a second back tap. Hopefully that means that we can easily catch it. There we go. First member of our third team down in the Obsidian Firelands, and I was super hyped to get that. Its model looks really good in this game. I do actually have a shiny Drifloon in Scarlet and Violet as well, and it definitely doesn't look anywhere as cool as this. Its animation looks great, its textures look great. I just think a lot of the Pokemon really benefit from this art style. So next up, we're moving on to our next Outbreak. We did get our first two quite quickly, and as you guys know, I do love the older Pokemon, so we were constantly trying to farm these Outbreaks here. Every time I saw a Machop Outbreak, I would go for it until I finally got one on this round. There we go, absolutely love that he's tiny as well. It was the best part about it. Shiny, tiny Machop, it looks really cool. Again, his colour looks a lot better in this game than it does in Scarlet and Violet. I was super excited to be able to get him in this, especially that he was on the smaller side. I either wanted a massive one or a tiny one, not just a normal one. So it was definitely time to get him to join the team. So firstly, we took out the first Machop on the left with a Psycho Cut, as Eddie is way over leveled to this area now at 67. And then we we took a couple of hits from Machop first. He was really hesitant to go for the Hypnosis, which is super annoying. So he dodges this first one here. And then we go for a second Hypnosis, dodges this one as well. I was starting to get a little panicky. I guess the only good thing is Machop doesn't really run, he just constantly fights, which is fine because he's not going to be able to take us down. Third time's a charm, we hit him with it, and then we go for a Leaden Ball to catch the second member of our third team. So now we're up to a shiny Drifloon and a shiny Machop. As you see there, his textures and the model itself looks really good in this game, and his idle animations are really good as well. Super excited to add him to the team. But after that, we hit a massive dry spell of over 18 hours without seeing another shiny, so I decided to farm any Outbreak I could, regardless of if it was going to add to the team or not. So as you can see here, we went for the Bunnery Outbreak. It did take a while. I'd done many of this Outbreak without any luck, but then finally we heard the noise. I was super excited to get this one on the team. I do think the pink looks really nice. It's definitely one of the better looking pink shinies in the game. And unfortunately he goes into the wildcard pool, but it was insane feeling to finally get a shiny after 18 hours of hunting and getting absolutely nothing. So as you can see, the Bunnery looks really nice. The pink is quite nice in this game. It's not as bright as it is in Scarlet and Violet, which is really cool. Definitely glad that I caught this one in this game as well. So next up, we were starting to farm some Outbreaks in the third zone again, trying to build up that team. So every time I saw a Vulpix Outbreak, obviously I would go for it. A shiny Vulpix would be amazing, but more so we could evolve it into a shiny Ninetales eventually, which has one of the best kind of textures in this game. Eventually, as we cleared the Outbreak, we finally did hear that noise. Obviously, it survives this first hit, which was a little bit worrisome as they do run away quite quickly, but we hit it with a second back tap here. And then we added the third member to our third team. As you can see here, shiny Vulpix looks really nice. That change to the yellow and kind of green paws looks really nice while keeping the red hair on the tail and its head. So next up, we were moving on to try and get the next member of the team. So one thing I always said at the start was that if there was any outbreaks for starter Pokemon, I would always attempt to go for them. I really wanted to get all three, the Rowlet, Piplup and Piplup and Chimchar, and then it finally happened. We did get that. We got that one straight away, which was really good. I was in absolute shock when I saw it. Piplup is such a nice shiny, and I was definitely excited to add him to the team. It was cool to see him in that little form there. It's not too different of a shiny, not a big dramatic change or anything like that, but still a nice addition to the team. Next up, it was time to evolve some of our shinies. So first up was Drifloon. Time to evolve him. It definitely needs to be a bit stronger. He's incredibly weak in that form. Yeah, and the evolution shiny does look quite good. Drifloon looks really sick. He's a massive improvement stats wise, which is great. And then next up was Machop, to evolve him into a Machoke. I never really understood why the middle one's called Machoke, even though he looks like he should be Machamp, right? Like, he's got the belt and everything. I actually really do not like this shiny. I do not think the green and blue go together, so I'm definitely keen to evolve him again. Lastly was the evolution for Piplup into Piplup. He does look not too much different, and yeah, kind of suffers from that middle evolution syndrome. But yeah, still excited to see him evolve into Empoleon eventually. But the crew was starting to look pretty solid. I did like that we kind of had 4 different-ish colours for the team, which was nice. This team was definitely coming along the best out of all the teams so far. So next up, I had to hunt an outbreak that everyone wants to get, and it was amazing to finally see a shiny Eevee. So in the comments below, I want you guys to tell me what you would evolve it into. I still haven't evolved it, and I've kept it as a wildcard Pokemon for my shiny playthrough. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll evolve it into the most popular one. Next up, it was finally time to evolve Machoke into Machamp. Machamp looks much nicer as soon as the blue disappears, and forearms look sick. There we go. That is a massive improvement in my opinion, and I do think he looks much better, so I was keen to get him into that. And then it was time for Piplup to become an Empoleon. Empoleon looks much better. Just the model itself, the Pokemon, in my opinion, is a lot better. I love the kind of crown mouth, looks really nice, and this shiny looks really sick. So here was the squad so far, finally a lot bigger in size, a lot more impressive than the first 2 teams, so definitely excited to see what this final team ends up looking like. Next up, as I mentioned before, as soon as I see a starter outbreak, I always go to it, and somehow it happened again. So we did get our second Piplup shiny. I will be giving this away in the next video. Basically any dupes that I get in my run through, I will be giving away. So stick around and subscribe to see that video when it comes out. It'll probably be a while away as these videos take a long time. But eventually we will be giving away any duplicate shinies I have, which I do have about 6. Next up, I was finally back to just hunting outbreaks that I enjoyed, and I really wanted to see if I could get a shiny Shinx in this run, even though he wouldn't be a part of that 3rd team. This was about the 7th or 8th time I'd done a Shinx outbreak, so to finally see that yellow lion pop up was really nice. This probably has one of the most iconic shinies in the entirety of Pokemon. Everyone loves shiny Shinx. It does look great in Scarlet and Violet as well, but I was super excited to get it in this game. As you can see there, the model looks really nice. The yellow's a really nice colour in this one, and I was super glad that we could actually get him for a wild card, but we'll see if he makes the final team. Next up, we just went back to continuing to grow the 3rd team. I do hate Boozle, but I was at the point where we were pushing on about 90 hours now, and I was really getting sick of all the outbreaks, so I was just getting any outbreak I could. It wasn't being picky, and it was nice to finally see and hear that shiny sound again. I do have multiple Boozle in Scarlet and Violet. I think I've caught 7 at this point. Yeah, very keen to get it in this game though, and add our 5th member to the team. As you can see, the squad was coming along nicely, and we just needed 1 more Pokemon to add to the team so we could move on to the 4th area. Next up, I just started going for random shinies again. So I saw a Wishcash outbreak, which was never a Pokemon that I'd ever gone for before, and wasn't a shiny I'd ever actually seen. So it was pretty interesting to see this pop up, and one of the more difficult catches for me to get. As I mentioned earlier, fighting Pokemon in the water is not fun in this game. The water actually acts like a barrier a lot of the time, which makes it really annoying to catch. But we did finally get it to pop up. Lastly, we were really pushing towards that 100 hours, so I really wanted to focus on getting the final member of that third team down. So this was a really difficult hunt. We were pushing up to about the 98th hour now until we finally got this shiny Finian in an outbreak. I love when it's the first Pokemon. As you see, we did get him on the first ball, which is amazing. Finian is not the nicest looking shiny, but the evolution Luminian actually looks really, really nice. I have a lot of respect for that Pokemon, especially after seeing the alt art in the TCG. The Pokemon is actually pretty cool, and it does have a really unique cry, which is cool. So finally, after about 100 hours, we'd finally finished our third team. We were sitting at about the 98, 99 hour mark, and this was our final squad. So obviously it was time to evolve them so we could have the complete crew. First up, it was turning Shiny Vulpix into Shiny Ninetales. Ninetales looks incredible in this game, much better in this game than it does in Scarlet and Violet. Again, as I keep mentioning, you'll see it in a second, the colour palette looks really, really nice. That grey with the bluey purple is so nice, especially when you're using it in battles. And then it was time to evolve Finian into Luminian. Luminian looks much, much nicer. Finian is just a really basic fish Pokemon, obviously it's the point, but Luminian looks really nice, and has that really weird, creepy yell that you can hear all the time. So this was the final squad. This was our final complete crew. This is the third team. Let us know which team you guys preferred. I actually really, really love this team. This is by far my favourite, and I was super excited to get into it. In the game, I am moving into the 4th zone now, but I have a few quick couple of outbreaks and things that happened just after to push me to the 100 hours. So as I mentioned earlier, going for the starters was something I really wanted to do. So we got a few Chimchar outbreaks that I started heading to. I have not ever had a shiny Chimchar. I did Briefcase Simulator 1 million times, but then we got a random shiny, and of course it wasn't Chimchar, which was super annoying. I had hunted this Pokemon before. I had done probably 12 or 13 outbreaks of this, but I'd never got it, and then of course it was to find a random. I did do the Chimchar outbreak and there was nothing there. So here's the final shiny of my run. This pushed me over 100 hours. I figured I might as well go for a Pokemon I'd never used before. So when I ran to this outbreak, I had done a lot of these before and never got anything, especially this Pokemon's quite aggressive, so it can be a difficult outbreak to kind of hunt. But then it finally happened. This is definitely a sign of why you need the shiny indicator too, because he does not look much different at all. Only a slight variation in colour. We hit him with a back tap to push us over to the 100 hours and catch our final shiny. So if you like this video, guys, please subscribe and leave us a like. We do heaps of shiny hunting guides, we do Pokemon raid videos, we basically do all Pokemon content. This video took me a long time to film, obviously, and a long time to edit. There was a bunch of stuff that we cut out, as I am making a shiny only playthrough, and I didn't want to spoil all of that. So yeah, let us know your feedback, guys. Let us know which you would evolve Eevee into, because I'll evolve it into the most popular one, and let us know what your favourite team was. Thanks for all the support, guys. We really hope you liked the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.